all of the Bitcoin in the world, and you offered it to me for $25. I wouldn't take it.
Unfortunately, Warren has no idea when it comes to Bitcoin.
What does XRP do? I don't know. They say it's the remittance that
Luke Belmar, who's a multi-bazillionaire and has made a lot of money in the crypto space. Let's see what he has to say about XRP.
How dare the government take 10% of people's income without...
Would you support 12.5% of your money being taken without your knowledge?
When you buy property through your superannuation fund, it's going to cost you about $10,000 in structuring costs.
When you're setting up an SMSF and allocating it to Bitcoin, the costs aren't anywhere near the $10,000 mark.
And so the idea of retiring in your 60s, I think, is entirely outmoded.
So if you could find something that you'd love doing day in and day out, then working until you're 100 wouldn't be the issue. The issue actually though is, I'm Matthew Fraser and this is Crypto Collective. After making millions with Amazon and e-commerce, I realized that if I was starting again today, crypto would be my first choice. I'm here to help you take your first steps and build real wealth. Ready to set yourself up for life? Let's go. Hey guys, welcome to Crypto Collective. My name is Matthew Fraser. In today's episode, it's going to be all about reactions. One of your favorites, I know it is. Let's get into it.
How dare the government take 10% of people's income without ever asking them and forcing them to give it to someone they've never met? Now, why can't we do what New Zealand did? New Zealand had a referendum on whether or not superannuation should be compulsory. And you know what they voted? They voted against it 92% to 8. We're not supporting investment in Australian assets. Well, there's already 6...
Let me just ask you from the outset, would you support 10%, which is actually now in Australia 12.5%, 12.5% of your money being taken without your knowledge? Let me know in the comments. Do you support superannuation, or would you just rather have the 12.5% in your pay packet every single week and you do what you want with it?
There's already $600 billion invested offshore with superannuation, and I've got the clip when Bob Hawke said that superannuation was going to be used to invest in Australian manufacturing. Well, that never...
Well, that's a bit late now, isn't it? That's actually laughable now, because what manufacturing base does Australia even have now? We don't have any manufacturing base now, right? It is gone, right? And with the rising cost of energy, which this government has completely stuffed, there's no way that manufacturing is coming back to Australia.
That never happened, did it? And nor would it, because the Button plan and the Dawkins plan, the Button plan destroyed manufacturing and the Dawkins plan destroyed higher education, turned our kids into commodities. Everything in this country now is turned into a commodity. There's nothing about, personal responsibility and letting the individual control it. No, you've got to monetize everything. And it's our kids who have suffered the most, whether it be through childcare or universities. You're treated like a transaction. It's completely wrong.
We're going to say, and I always say this, the government ain't going to save you. And unfortunately, neither is your superannuation fund, because right now you're looking at between 6 to 8% annual growth on your superannuation, which ain't going to cut it in this age. And even Mark Burros now says, at the current rate, you're going to have to work until you're 80 or 90 years old. So what is the answer, you may ask? How can I get out of this conundrum? Of course, the answer is Bitcoin.
If the people in this room owned all of the farmland in the United States and you offered me a 1% interest in it, $25 billion, I'll write you a check this afternoon. $25 billion, now I own 1% of the farmland. If you tell me you own 1% of the apartment houses in the United States, another $25 billion or something, I'll write you a check. Now, if you told me you owned all of the Bitcoin in the world and you offered it to me for $25, I wouldn't take it because
$25.
I have to sell it back to you one way or another. I mean, it isn't going to do anything. The apartments are going to produce rental and farms are going to produce food. And if I've got all the Bitcoin, I'm back where whatever his name was, who may or may not have existed, was 15 years ago. If I've got it all, people will say, why should I buy some Bitcoin from you? I mean, why don't you call it Buffett coin? Make your own or something. Do something, but I'm not going to give you anything for it. That explains the difference between productive assets and something that depends on the next guy paying you more than the last guy got.
Warren Buffett has a lot to answer for. Now, there's no doubt that Warren Buffett has done extremely well when it comes to investing. But unfortunately, Warren has no idea. And I don't expect him to. He's an old guy, but he has no idea when it comes to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the #1 performing asset over the past 15 years. You would not put your money into property. You would not put it into shares. If you could put it into anything that was going to outperform everything, it would be Bitcoin. Now, clearly, he hasn't done the research. He hasn't got the book. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is what you need to be reading, Warren.
Almost every single cryptocurrency is a terrible investment, and I'm not just talking about meme coins. I think this includes many of the tokens in the top 100, the ones that many of you probably think are bulletproof, and I'm telling you this as the head of product at a crypto exchange, which might sound counterintuitive.
There's nothing bulletproof.
You've likely already heard the
altcoins.
surface level reasoning for this. That today there are over 35 million cryptocurrencies, and that just a couple years ago there were only 10,000, and how back then a rising tide would lift all boats, where a market rebound would mean that you could hold almost anything in crypto and you would still likely see some profits. But here is the actual problem. Most of us are looking at crypto as an alternative to investing in the stock market. You're likely thinking you can invest in any of the top 100 cryptocurrencies that are legitimate projects with fantastic teams, with really good technology behind them. The things that...
Let me say, I actually have invested 6 figures plus into altcoins, which is exactly what he's talking about. And I will say some of them didn't work out so well, right? This is not a get rich quick, learn from my lesson. Not everything that you put money into in the crypto space is automatically going to go up. Now, what I will say though, the best performing asset that I did allocate a lot of money into was Bitcoin, right? It is the #1 performing asset. So the altcoins I consider as complete gambles. So play at your own risk, but sometimes you could see higher returns in the altcoins, but just be prepared. It is like a gambling machine when you're talking about altcoins.
You're calling fundamentals, and that logic is entirely broken. When it comes to the stock market, there are no early stage companies. They've all been around for at least 7 to 10 years by the time they've IPO'd and you and I can invest in them. And before that even happens, 9 out of 10 startups fail. The problem here is that in crypto, you're investing in early stage startups. None of these companies have been around for very long. And by that logic alone, 9 out of 10 of the cryptocurrencies you own will fail. And where it gets even uglier is that where stock markets are regulated, crypto is not. The price of most of the tokens you're interested in are barely tied to the success of a product or company. Even worse, founders can sell their assets under the table. There is market manipulation all over the place. You're likely just not aware of it. Something as simple as a brilliant marketing strategy can pump a token's price. And these are...
Let me cut it off there. I think you've heard enough. All you need to know is that if you're investing in altcoins, it comes at a huge risk. That's why 95% of my overall crypto investments are in Bitcoin. Hey, just quickly, if you're ready to dive deeper into crypto and Bitcoin and build real wealth, join my free crypto collective community. It's where I share exclusive insights and strategies and live discussions to help you succeed, whether you're a beginner or scaling your portfolio. Click on the link in the description and join us today. Now back to the episode.
This next bull run is going to make fucking millionaires, and you could be one of them as long as you play your cards right. It is insane how some of my friends became literal millionaires earlier this year when meme coins were like at their peak. If you know where the narrative is going, if you doom scroll on this app and you're actually like caught up to speed on the stupidest shit, you have to understand as the bull run goes, you literally have more opportunity than anyone else. So yeah, doom scrolling can literally be a benefit. If you think you're gonna get rich off meme coins, follow me for more.
This is not financial advice. Doom scrolling on TikTok to become a multi-millionaire. I don't know if that's going to work. In my opinion, doom scrolling is going to waste a shitload of time. What I'd be doing is focusing on getting educated in the Bitcoin space, understanding why Bitcoin is the #1 asset, and it has been for now nearly 15 plus years, and why even people like me have put all of their industry super fund money into an SMSF and allocated it to Bitcoin. Why have we done that, I wonder?
I know politicians are telling you you can retire at 60, but let me tell you, the economics are clear. We need to be working into our 70s.
God.
The idea of retiring at 60 is fine if you're going to die at 70. But the truth is, most of us aren't. Every single decade, we live longer. So the thought that you might live to 100 is a possibility.
Like, it's kind of like a good problem to have, I guess.
So the idea of retiring in your 60s, I think, is entirely outmoded. We need to think about working right the way through our life. But of course, to do that, we have to change the way we think about our whole life.
Let me say this. I don't mind the idea of working until I die. Only though if I'm working in something that I actually enjoy. Like, for example, doing these videos. Right now, I love doing these videos. I love talking to people about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Now, if I could talk about that until I die, it's not really working, is it? Because I love it. So if you could find something that you'd love doing day in and day out, then working until you're 100 wouldn't be the issue. The issue actually though is working in something that you hate, where you want to get out by the time you're 60, but you can't. But imagine if you could invest in something that could set you up for retirement even before 60 and sustain you until the end of your days, so you never had to work a day in your life unless you actually wanted to. What is the answer? You know what I'm going to say. The answer is Bitcoin.
Self-managed super funds suck, and for most people are a really bad idea. And I've unfortunately seen a heap of people that have got sucked in by people pushing self-managed super funds with an agenda and ended up seriously slowing down and sabotaging their program.
Oh, no.
Self-managed super funds are typically sold with the allure of using your super money to invest into property, and they talk about the marketing line of being able to pay down a mortgage with tax-deductible super contributions. Now,
shit, for a second there, I thought he was literally calling out. I thought he was about to say my name. And the people who are supporting people who are moving their industry super fund into SMSFs and allocating it to Bitcoin. I thought he was literally going to call me out then. But turns out I'm all right at the moment, okay? Maybe because he does know that Bitcoin is the #1 performing asset. Maybe he knows that. Let's see what else he has to say about this dreaded property game.
this actually makes a lot of sense and sounds really appealing, but there's a couple of serious errors in this thinking. Now, first, I want to call out that I love property and I think it's a great investment for a lot of people.
Okay.
In fact, I think it's the most effective way that you can build your investments and wealth because of...
Except for Bitcoin. I think you just forgot to add that little bit in, yeah? It's the best way to build your wealth, except for Bitcoin.
Because of the fact that when you buy property, you're not buying the property entirely in cash, you're using borrowing and therefore leverage to invest, and you get, instead of just investing $100,000, you're going to have a $500,000 property, a much bigger investment that's actually working.
Okay, come on, get to it. What's the problem, Mark?
When you buy property through your superannuation fund, it's going to cost you about $10,000 in structuring costs. You've got to set up the self-managed super fund itself. You've got to register some company stuff in a lot of cases around that. Then you've got to also set up another, like a trust inside what's called a bear trust or a custodial trust inside your superannuation fund to own the property investments because of the super rules. And on top of that, when you then go and take out a mortgage on the property, you've got to pay thousands of dollars in mortgage application costs because there's very few players in the superannuation fund mortgage market.
Well, let me just say on this point, $10,000 may be the case if you're buying or investing in property within your SMSF. But I can tell you, when you're setting up an SMSF and allocating it to Bitcoin, the costs aren't anywhere near the $10,000 mark. I would say it's probably anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 to set up your SMSF. And then guess what? There's no application costs, there's no transfer fees, there's nothing, no stamp duty especially, and no mortgage insurance when it comes to buying Bitcoin within your SMSF.
What does XRP do?
Uh-oh.
I don't know. They say it's the remittance, the ISO remittance of the world. It's bullshit. Not really a thing.
Wait, before we go anywhere further into this reaction, we've got to say, first of all, the XRP Army absolutely hates me right now because I've been calling a bit of BS on the XRP. Now, that said, I don't know. I'm just an uneducated guy. Maybe XRP is going to go to the moon. But I tell you what, they're one passionate lot of people, the XRP Army. Let's see what Luke Belmar, who's a multi-bazillionaire and has made a lot of money in the crypto space. Let's see what he has to say about XRP.
Thing. It's a fucking glorified meme coin that's...
Oh, it's a glorified meme coin. That's what he said. That wasn't XRP Army. I didn't say that. That's what Luke Belmar said. It's a glorified meme coin. Ouch. Damn, you guys are going to hate on this one. I know you are. Let's see what else Luke has to say.
$100 billion, and you're looking at the CEO of it and he's dumping on your head. But they have such good lore, such good storytelling. You have dozens of YouTube channels that just cover this. It's meme coin culture.
What does XRP do?
It's meme coin culture for the XRP Army. Please, guys, don't come after me. but secretly, I hope you do. All right, guys, that's it from me for the reactions video. I'm sure there's going to be some good reactions from people from the XRP Army, especially in the comments. So look out for that. Join in the conversation and maybe let me know what you think about XRP and Bitcoin. All right, guys, take care. Thanks for tuning in to Crypto Collective. If you've enjoyed this episode, the best way to show your support is to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. You can also find more of me at I'm Matthew Fraser on all social media platforms.